Okay.
So my next question, I'm also stuck on the word irregular. The definition of an irregular lot was in the first slide or maybe the second slide.
Yeah.
I can't remember. And a regular shaped lot. What's a regular shaped lot? I'm assuming that irregular is the opposite of regular. So do we know what a regular shaped lot is?
I don't believe that the code defines an irregular shaped lot, but it's been interpreted as I described kind of here, as lots that have an irregular shape. They may have 5 sides even, but they're commonly off of cul-de-sacs. They're not just a rectangle or a square.
Not to be argumentative, but,
that's fine.
but that shape right there is on every $1 bill. It's the pyramid with the top cut off.
Sure.
So that's pretty regular. But I guess I'm just trying to figure out when we're talking about this, are we saying that our lot should only be rectangular? When I look at the proposal, it's got a 50-foot. That could potentially be thought of as a regular. A flagpole lot could be irregular, but then it's more closely defined as 20. I'm just trying to understand the terminology because I think that affects what we can and can't do.
Well, as we go along, Bill, did you have something you want to point out?
Just to provide some clarity, even if you have an irregular lot, you need to meet the minimum lot width at the building line. So you need to meet the 60 feet in width. So even if you have a
building line is...
It'd be where the building would be placed, or the minimum setback. Generally, when reviewing a plat and looking at a regular lot, we would look at the setback and ensure that they're meeting that at the setback line. In this case, they wouldn't meet that building width at the minimum setback. They would only meet the lot width as you got back to the rear portion, again, kind of in the same as a flagpole configuration. That would establish or push the building site to the rear portion of the property where it, as proposed, it would widen out and would meet the minimum 60-foot width at the rear of the proposed new lot.
So if I'm trying to understand, if the building were being proposed at the rear part of the lot, that would be unacceptable.
They could just do a flagpole. It would just be we would consider it a flag lot if that was going to be the designated building site, and they could just go through a lot division approval. The applicant wished to retain the development opportunity up at the street line at the same position as the other home, but they couldn't meet the minimum lot width up at that location.
John, did you have a question? Did you have something you wanted to say?
Well, yeah, I was at at least one thing here, and it seems to me that with a flag lot, then you could put in a driveway to the back and build something back there, and then you could sell all of it. It's just that the building would be further off the street than, say, the house that is on there now is. Is that?
That's correct. That would be permissible underneath the code to create a flag lot. It's that the applicant did not wish to develop it in that configuration.
Okay.
Walter?
Becky, in one of your slides, you're talking about 25 lots in the block or in the neighborhood. And then go to your purple and blue slide, please. Where are the 25 lots you're talking about?
So it's a little bit hard to see on there, but it's basically all the lots, these 4 here, and then all the ones that front Kenneth. And then it's all the ones on the first block off of Kenneth, I guess.
So it's the it's the southern half of the block north of Kenneth and the northern half of the block south of
Right.
Kenneth, or the 25 you're counting. Okay. If I may.
Go ahead, continue.
And there's no problem, had the variance been approved by the Board of Adjustment, or if it were to get approved by this group, there's no problem building in that 50-foot space up closer to the street.
That's correct, as long as they meet all setbacks. They'd have to meet the side setbacks.
Right, but it's physically possible to do that. And then if I may, the third one is, you said something about sidewalks are not in that block in front of this particular current house or the lot to the west. And if this were approved, sidewalks would be occurred on both of the 2 new lots created?
So that's something that engineering would review, but typically with this type of improvement, there would be a requirement that the sidewalk be improved in front of that parcel.
And that would be both the 50-foot lot and the 60-foot lot?
I'll defer to Bill.
Bill?
Generally, it would only be required for the lot that is having a new principal structure constructed. So if it was approved as proposed by the applicant, the 50-foot wide lot would be required to make frontage improvements. The existing home and existing lot would not be required to unless the council made that a condition of approval of a lot division request.
Okay, thank you.
So if the lot is considered in its entirety and the building site was pushed to the back, it could in fact accommodate more than one two-family dwelling.
That's correct.
So in other words, if you just ran a driveway up, there'd be sufficient room in the back for a couple of...
Yes, if this was approved, the lighter shaded area is just over 14,000 square feet, which would allow for two-family dwellings.
Bill?
John?
I'm sorry, I got another one here. Reading through this and then seeing it on the screen, we were talking, or we heard about 1957 and when the current 60-foot footprint was required. Does that have anything to do with what happened before 1957, other than they changed it?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would say that it's just that they changed it. They decided to change the characteristics that are allowed in there and changed it to 60 for whatever reason they did.
So from 1957 till now, the lot has been 110 feet wide, and that was fine. And now the owner wants to break it apart into a 60 and a 50, and is using the 19 and pre-1957 rules to justify the move.
Walter?
Bill hadn't...
All I was going to say is I don't want to speak on behalf of the applicant.
Yeah, we're going to give the applicant
They have
a
requested a
chance.
variance from the minimum lot width.
One of the things, even though this isn't a public hearing, we're going to give the applicant a chance. As soon as we're done questioning Becky up here, we're going to give her a chance to talk about this, John. So even though it's not a public hearing, she'll get her opportunity. Let's go to Wayne first, Walter, and I'll come back to you. Wayne hasn't spoke yet.
Total size of the newly created lot would be 14,668 square feet,
That's right.
right? If you do the math, 50 feet times 144 feet, the narrower section is 7,200 square feet, which would then leave you 7,400 square feet in the larger section. The larger section being 7,400 square feet, could you in fact put two duplexes in there or two townhouses in there because it is 7,200 square feet?
7,200 square feet would only allow for one duplex.
No, but the lot as a whole is still
Would allow for
14,000.
two total.
Hang on a second. Bill, you want to help out?
Just to clarify, that's really not the question that's before the council. The council is being requested to approve a lot or being asked to review the decision of the board related to a variance request for the lot width. What they may or may not be able to do underneath the code is what they may or may not be able to do underneath the code or physically on the individual site. We do require underneath the code in the R3 district to have 7,000 square feet per two-family dwelling. That would meet the 14,000. How you would physically fit it on the site, I don't really want to comment upon. That would be something that would be reviewed at a future date.
I think we'll move on, Becky. I'm going to have Kit come up now if she wants to. Kit, I seen you out here. You want to come up and address the council, please? Like I said, there won't be any new testimony, folks, but we're going to let the applicant speak on some of these, maybe some of the questions that the council has up here she can answer.
Okay, Catherine Kit Crane, Appeal626Kenneth. I'm here as trustee for the Janet H. Crane Trust and as personal representative for the estate of Janet Hagelin Crane. The trust actually owns this property. That's an estate property. I'm trying to get it sold so that I can settle the estate. And unfortunately, I can't sell it as one piece. The economy people can borrow money to buy it, but they can't borrow money to do anything with it once they've got it. So my basic point in asking for this is so that we can try to create something that's in character with the neighborhood. I'm not going to develop the lot. And it really doesn't matter whether we have 50 feet of width or a flag lot, we still have the same space for somebody to develop whatever. My concern is getting something to fit in there. I've lived there all my life, and I would hate to see 2 big duplexes way in the back and then a big empty space in the front. And a couple questions people had here. There is a sidewalk in front of the existing house. It's the new lot that does not have a sidewalk. And also on the 60 feet, the 1957 ordinance, that 60 feet was specified for any development outside of the 1957 city boundaries. Inside the 1933 50-foot width applied. Sometimes subsequent to that, that 60 feet was applied to the entire city. So basically, I asked for this because you do have in your comprehensive plan that neighborhood overlay. It passed in 2012. The city simply has not had time to develop all of the codes and procedures that you need to implement it. And a variance is about the only way I can see to be able to develop this in compliance with the comprehensive plan during that interim period where you don't have the code. And that's basically it. I'd like to see that. My mother would have liked to see that. My neighbors would like to see that developed with something along street level. And if the flag lot, they would probably end up with 2 duplexes at the back of the lot. With this configuration with the 50 feet, you would have one structure at the street level and another at the back, so there would be space for yards and other things. So it wouldn't look odd forever. That's all I have to say unless you have questions.
Walter, do you have a question? Walter?
Yeah, Kit, and don't take this as being argumentative, but I find your explanation a little confusing. Your interest is in settling the estate, you stated. In order to do that, you need to sell this property, and you're finding that you have been unable to this point.
Right.
If you just want to sell the property at I'm presuming, a price you're willing to take for the estate and get that done, why not just do it as a flag lot and let whoever buys it do whatever they're going to do? And then you don't have to go through this exercise contending with us.
It's very simple that I've got a really friendly neighbor next door that I like and one on the other side and people across the street. And just the whole idea of imposing a development way in the back just doesn't set right with me. And that's basically it.
No, fair enough.
Walter, one of the things here, and Bill alluded to it earlier, we're going to take the merits of the variance. We can't really tell the applicant what she could or could not do or what's available because we need to stay within finding the relevant criteria and making a decision on the variance, so it really doesn't have anything to do with what, even though
the question was directly related to the applicant's statement.
But it was one of those things that Bill had pointed out earlier, so I think we need to keep the confines in with the variance, why it was denied, and or if we're going to, which direction we're going to go with this thing. And the 5 relevant criteria are very well important. Thank you, Kit, very much.
Okay. Thank you.
John, you had a...
Well, just a comment that I was reading over again the relevant criteria and standards. Do all 5 of these have to be met?
Yes.
Okay. And if 4 of them are met and 1 isn't,
Bill, I'm going to let you answer that. I know the answer to that, but I'm going to let you answer that.
Yeah, generally for a variance, conformance with all of the 5 criteria have to be met.
All right. Well, this may be a bit premature, but at this point, reading this...
John, hang on a second. Dan had a question here, and then I'll come back to you, John. Maybe.
You know, I wasn't on the Board of Adjustment at the time, but looking through, I could go through those relevant criteria and make it fit. I mean, I got to look at the actual. Can you put the 5 criteria back up on the board?
Make it fit.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the first one. I want to make sure that I'm answering the right questions. The special conditions exist, in my opinion, because of the location of the property and the other, you know, we're talking about a development that was created in, you know, the early 1900s, and so it's kind of a historical neighborhood, so that to me seems like a special condition, and it could create, you know, we're talking about the hardship in Part 2 because it deprives of making that into, say, you know, if it was 100-foot wide, you could make 2 50-foot lots like most of them are, it seemed to be in the neighborhood. Number 3, the conditions of the property are not the result of the actions of the applicant or property owner because the rules changed, the code changed, you know, they own the property, but they didn't make the code changes. And then number 4, it doesn't confer a special privilege because it isn't different from 25 other lots in the area as far as lot width. And number 5, it's not in conflict with the public interest because, or injurious to the other property in the vicinity because it would make it very similar to the other properties in the vicinity.